countless star systems across the Outer Rim territories, the galactic government that presides from Coruscant, Chandrila, or any other core world has no real meaning. To the disparate peoples of the frontier, the decline of the High Republic, the Clone Wars, the rise of the Empire, and the re-establishment of the New Republic all might have occurred without any significant impact on their lives. Some might not have even realized that these events occurred at all, or what the Republic and Empire even were. Only a different kind of power can take root in the Outer Rim. It is one that does not stem from the ideals of liberty or legions of armed soldiers. It is instead a corrupting force, the dirty side of sharp credits. It has gone by many names across many eras, but very few have ever evoked so much fear as the criminal empire helmed by Jabba Desilijic Tiure. To the galaxy at large, Jabba's empire was presented as a legitimate business conglomerate with a sizable stake in various mining concerns, manufacturing industries, private banks, and entertainment services. Dozens and potentially hundreds of casinos, cantinas, gambling halls, and even sporting arenas were owned by Jabba and leveraged to boost the Hutt's personal image. Jabba routinely presided over major events held at these businesses, even personally signaling the start of the Boonta Eve Classic, an annual pod race popular across the Outer Rim. These public displays of wealth and power made Jabba a beloved figure on worlds in which he maintained a significant presence, but were in fact a carefully curated veneer used to conceal the true nature of his business. The majority of his wealth was generated through illicit means, notably glitterstim spice harvesting, arms dealing, organized piracy, smuggling, and the slave trade. At the more local level, secondary activities included protection racketeering, trafficking, extortion, and money laundering. Modeled on the cartels favored by the Hutt crime families, Jabba's empire was a loose confederation of hundreds of individual groups, each laying claim over a territory, typically a town, village, or business venture. While in many areas they represented the most powerful group within that territory, Jabba rarely sought to conquer an area directly or legitimize his monopoly of violence. Instead, his agents typically bribed any local officials so they might act openly and with impunity. Many of these groups were not directly linked to Jabba or the Hutts, but rather semi-independent vassals allowed to conduct their own affairs so long as they did not interfere with the primary business, and pledge loyalty to Jabba above all. Jabba's status as a member of the Grand Hutt Council ensured his empire was intertwined with the Hutt cartels as a whole. By design, the power structure of Jabba's empire within the Hutt cartels was difficult to define, with its various cells compartmentalized to avoid the compromise of one endangering the survival of all. Yet every group existed within a deeply hierarchical, united, and pyramidal association, with Jabba above all at its peak. A number of lesser lieutenants comprised Jabba's direct subordinates, a mixture of blood family and senior members of the greater crime family. To maintain a level of distance from its illegal activities, Jabba's empire also favored using freelancers for many of its more dangerous operations, notably when smuggling and bounty hunting. At its height, Jabba's empire spread across dozens of star systems throughout the Outer Rim territories, but was centered on the backwater desert world of Tatooine for the majority of its existence. A palace located in the northern dune sea of that world served as the Empire's de facto capital, a former monastery of the Bomar Order, refitted and fortified to serve Jabba's unique needs. Within its subterranean depths were housed Jabba's small fleet of starships, cargo skiffs, and sail barges. It was also noted and feared for the menagerie of exotic creatures housed there, to which individuals that had displeased Jabba were often fed. 604 years old at the time of his death, Jabba was almost certainly a major criminal figure within the Outer Rim for several centuries. The earliest details of his rise to power remain unknown, but he was rumored to have closely collaborated with a set of crime families known as the Crimora Syndicate, and this association in some way led to his place on the Hutt Council. Jabba's empire benefited enormously from the outbreak of the Clone Wars. The Galactic Republic, which might have otherwise attempted to arrest him or curtail his activities, instead brokered an alliance with Jabba, hoping to use secret hyperspace lanes known only to the Hutts in their war against the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Legitimized by this new relationship with the Republic, Jabba's criminal empire engaged in extensive war profiteering, selling materials at vastly inflated prices to support the expanding clone armies. In the era of the Galactic Empire, Jabba's criminal enterprises was seen as a valuable tool that could be exploited by the new Imperial system. Raw materials mined within Jabba's labor camps were of particular interest to the Imperial Starfleet, and Jabba's empire was one of the few criminal organizations allowed to act even semi-openly. Despite their close relationship with the Galactic Empire, however, the rampant profiteering that marked the Clone Wars was severely curtailed by stricter Imperial negotiators. The criminal empire came to an abrupt end just prior to the destruction of the second Death Star, when Jabba himself was killed during an incident on Tatooine. During a botched execution of a captured smuggler, Jabba was supposedly strangled to death, according to some accounts, by later New Republic Senator and Princess of Alderaan, Leia Organa. Regardless, his sudden death threw his organization into chaos as rival vassals and former lieutenants began attempting to carve out pieces of Jabba's empire for themselves. Bib Fortuna, Jabba's chief steward, was among these, assuming control of the palace itself, but failing to consolidate the remainder of the empire. The remaining Hutts were similarly paralyzed, endlessly debating the nature of Jabba's last will and testament, and letting his empire rot in their absence. Jabba's empire was among the largest of its kind in the history of the Outer Rim, a center of power in a place where even the Galactic Republic and Empire had largely failed. It would seem inevitable that with the death of its crime lord, the organization would fall to dust, with even its once grand palace swept beneath the sands of Tatooine. Instead, rumors are swirling across the Outer Rim that a new successor to the criminal empire has declared himself, a man as greatly feared as Jabba once was, but determined to rule with respect.
The Templin Institute investigates the nations, factions, and organizations of alternate worlds. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to join the Templin Institute, consider pledging to our Patreon page. Along with increased security access, you'll be able to vote in polls to determine future topics, get custom wallpaper every week, and receive some other exclusive rewards.